I will get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. It's the Region 14 Upper Rio Grande Flood Planning Group General Meeting, Thursday, May 7th. The official time is 1:04 p.m. We'll call this meeting to order. Any public comments? Anyone from the public? Any comments? Nothing. I'll go to agenda item 3, Rio Grande COG, review and approve the minutes for the meeting held March 16th.
Kevin, I've got a couple questions in relation to the minutes, but nothing that needs to be corrected, just some questions and see if you might be able to let us know how it's going. In paragraph 8 in the minutes for AECOM, there was a statement in there that said if the Texas Water Development Board determines that an FME cannot be completed during the cycle due to budget constraints, TCEQ studies, the FME will be skipped. I understand there's a TCEQ issue with the dam at Hudspeth, that project. Do you know the status of the TCEQ response on that?
I do not personally know the status. Travis, is that something you can speak to?
Yes, they are still finalizing it. We've had discussions with them. The plan to go forward is that 9-month requirement is for to make sure that the FME studies are able to get back the results and any FMP or follow-on study recommendations so that they could be submitted into, like, with this upcoming regional flood plan cycle and incorporated. And so with the TCEQ deadline and like their review period potentially moving past that 9-month period, at that point, the study would not be identifying or recommending any additional FMPs. It would just be obtaining TCEQ, like formal TCEQ approval. And so it hasn't been formalized, but it's looking like it's going to say, yeah, you're getting the part that you need to do and get back to the RFPG in 9 months. And if, third-party review of this by a regulatory agency takes longer than that 9 months, it's not going to negatively impact the community, the technical consultant, TWDB, or the RFPG.
Okay, so that won't force us to go to Ozona as a third alternative.
No. Not at this time.
Okay, all right. And Kevin, I have one other question. In paragraph 11, there was a floodplain group submitted a public comment as a whole to the Water Development Board. Do you know what the status of that comment is? I understand it's been submitted. Do we have any feedback on our comment?
So the status update that I think I can provide at this time is that we are internally asking if that comment has been reviewed and if a response has been given. And I don't have an answer to that, but the comment was received. To my knowledge, we are just currently seeing if leadership has provided a response to that or not, and figuring out what the process is for that.
Okay, it's a pretty significant issue for us, and that's why we were interested in knowing if we were going to get some kind of an answer on it. Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written then.
And can I mention something really fast about that comment? We had our bi-weekly call with Nick Collins last week, and he said that he was working on that comment. So TWDB is working on that comment. So we should have a response soon. Here is Nick.
Oh, there's Nick.
Apologies, my Teams was not letting me join any calls whatsoever, so I had to restart my computer. Thank you, Kevin, for stepping in. But yes, like Kevin said, we are checking with leadership to see if this is something that we can get a response back, and if they are planning on getting a response back, and then whenever I find out, I will definitely relay that to Aaron as well as Luis and Travis, and then I will have an update at the next board meeting or at the next RFPG meeting, if not sending out an update before then. And thank you all for y'all's patience on this. I know it's very important to y'all and very important to Region 14. So I appreciate the understanding and the patience with this.
Did we get a second?
No, we didn't. So we had Dave make a motion. If I could get a second to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? On favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item number 4. Mr. Nick Collins with your update.
Awesome. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. I've a couple updates, and they should go by pretty quick. The TW Board approved 14 Second Amendment 2023 regional flood plans for regions 1 and 3 through 15 on March 31st, 2026. The information for these amendments will be integrated into an amended 2024 state flood plan, which we hope to will be ready early next year. Task 5B items from the March and April deliverables are currently now under review. TW will reach out with any requests for information and will also inform you when those deliverables have been found to be administrative complete. The TWB is currently reviewing the technical memorandums for all RFPGs and will provide informal comments this summer. Regional flood planning intends to host an upcoming chairs conference call on a date and time to be determined. We are kind of thinking middle of summer. So Chairman Acosta, if you are interested in, we are looking for volunteers for chairing that. If you are interested, please let me know. I know there's going to be other chairs that are interested. So please let me know if you are interested. And then the most recent newsletter covering events and emails from December 2025 through March 2026 was sent out on 3/25. This is also available online on our second cycle documents webpage. And I can link that in the chat if anybody needs that. And that concludes my update.
Thank you, Nick. We will go on to the next item. Agenda item number 5, ACOM general updates, dates, upcoming events, other info. Go ahead, Travis.
Thank you. So this will be the ACOM portion. We're going to go through several items here: general updates, updates on task 2, updates on task 3, task 4, 4C, and 5B. The first one is the general updates. With the submittal to TWDB of the task 5B deliverable for the FMEs for small communities, the next TWD deliverable isn't until 2027. So at this point, ACOM is going to continue moving forward on the previous scope items and providing updates, periodically, having opportunities for the RFPG to review sections and provide comments. But we aren't looking for any deliverables to TWDB soon. There will still probably be questions and clarification as usual. But the next one is actually May 26, 2027, to prepare and submit the draft RFP to TWDB. Have any questions before I proceed? Okay, we'll move on to the. So this is the updates on task 2, existing and future condition flood risk analysis, agenda item number 6. So we have Monica on the call to answer any detailed questions. She's been overseeing this task, but I will give a brief summary. We've been working through the updates to the existing and future flood condition modeling right now. And so we have, I believe, 4 slides that highlight some of the changes and updates that we've seen in the region. The difference between the previous phase and this phase is the inclusion of the BLE modeling. In phase 1, it was primarily based on Fathom, and this one will be a mix of both. The largest differences we've seen are in areas where flood is shallow and spread out. The difference in modeling approaches and how they process terrain has led to some variations between that. In this figure specifically, you can see in downtown Alpine City, the phase 1 flood quilt, the blue diagonal hatch, spreads out around the center of the city of Alpine, while the phase 2 flood quilt has a lot more impacts in that downtown area, while showing some different flow paths through the community. What this can be, represented by and what tracks back to is break lines and terrain refinement in the BLE model that was not present in the Fathom modeling. The Fathom modeling included more stuff like losses and infiltration and assumptions about subsurface drainage infrastructure. The BLE modeling instead went and got a lot more detailed when it comes to the mesh. The mesh sizing is roughly the same, but the way that it's laid out and aligned is there to more closely reflect the terrain and the break lines and where it will be actually affecting the flow. Both modelings we're going to use when we identify conceptual level flood impacts in areas that don't have detailed modeling. So we're not seeing one or the other, we're looking at both when we try and say, hey, what is the actual risk here? So this is the city of Alpine.
Hey, Travis, is there any accuracy differences between the two? Or are they very similar? I know you're talking about the break lines, but as far as like the contour.
So from a accuracy perspective, it's roughly equivalent. They're using the same precision of data, but it comes down to the where they drew that edge. Like, let me see if I can explain this better. The Fathom data took a grid, just a straight grid, and of the cell sizing, and just plopped that on a map. The BLE model takes that same grid sizing, but instead of just like plopping it on and where stuff lands, it lands, they tried to make the edges of those grids follow, say, um, the, let's see if I can get a laser pointer, like the ridge here along this line. So that would be one edge, or the valley along here, or, as we see in communities, a lot of times like curb and gutters and stuff like that, where, they would be captured in the Fathom modeling, but they're given a lot more detail to pick up the hydrologically relevant features instead of just applying a grid, or hydraulically relevant features.
Got it. Thank you, Travis.
Yeah. Move on to the next slide here. This is the city of Kermit. We can see a lot of differences here, primarily on the north and northwest side of the community, where we're seeing a lot of these more urban impacts as flow is spreading out in the community and accumulating there, and remaining there, not draining away. So we see some, undercount in some of the rural areas from our perspective, which is why we're still using both. In rural areas, you're seeing a lot more agricultural impacts, a lot more roadway impacts that we feel Fathom, does represent well. But again, we're looking at both, and we feel like, the BLE really highlights some impacts in urban areas here. One interesting one is the city of Ozona. There is substantial overlap here and very little differences. It's only on the fringe in some of that infill area do you really see, any significant difference. The difference between this slide and say Kermit is Ozona's flooding is very, very channelized. There is a big river that goes like through the downtown, and so the flooding follows that river as it goes up and down, and that's captured very well by both models. But again, it's that that shallow spread out flow that we see most variations in. I believe Jeff had a comment. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I'm not sure if this would impact the study, but the city of Alpine is working on a water harvesting strategy. It's just a start. Yeah, we can discuss that later. This is surface water. I believe most long-term harvesting is not like surface stormwater.
Oh, it
There are some
is.
issues with reliability. Okay, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're just talking about cutting curbs, and putting water on the parks and things like that, floodwaters.
Okay, so it's more like a green infrastructure kind of mitigation, that kind of thing. Yeah. No, we had not discussed that previously. Um, is this
Well,
harvesting for drinking
it used
water
to
or
be a
for just for?
strategy. I'm sorry, never mind.
No,
We can
is
talk
this
later.
Oh, okay, that's fair. We'll send you a follow-up email, Jeff. Then we have sorry. We have the final one here, which is the city of Pecos. There isn't a lot of changes here. But this is significant where we do see the changes. Broadly speaking, the maximum extents of the flow of the floods are the same. But when you look into that downtown area, in areas where there were gaps or in between, areas that were indicated by the Fathom modeling, you can really see the BLE modeling filling those in and indicating that there would be flow there. And this leads to a significant increase in the structure counts in those communities between Fathom and BLE. That is the last slide for this section. Are there any questions?
That's good coverage for the city of Pecos. I know they need a lot of studies down there.
Yeah, and we'll be providing this. We're still in the process of reviewing and QCing. I believe the focus is right now on the future. But we'll be providing this. One thing to keep in mind is this is conceptual modeling. There are a lot of assumptions that are made on this, but this is what we kind of use to base our relative rankings of communities and what the representative impacts would be across the region. Which is why you're not seeing, City of El Paso or anything like that. They have detailed modeling that we can actually use to get, quantifiable, verified amounts. These are for like that high kind of conceptual identification purposes. But in some areas, it's still the best we've got. Next is the Task 3 Floodplain Management Practices, Needs Analysis, and Goals. This is mostly just hey, we're kind of holding on until we finish this 2B modeling. We had discussed goals pretty heavily in the previous meeting as we wanted to take a look at those, and Gisela had provided some wonderful comments. We've since incorporated those comments, and we've made some updates to practices and needs analysis, as we go. That being said, we're waiting for the results of task 2 before we really start finalizing these. And so one thing that we wanted to bring up to you guys was the previous green infrastructure presentation that was made that Giselle also had comments. So we'll be reviewing that and reviewing other, green and other infrastructure options for recommendations as general processes in the regional flood plan going forward. And then the needs analysis is going to kind of summarize what's going on in the region, what impacts we're seeing, what we want to do throughout the region. We don't expect this to change, but we do want to say, hey, we're going to be reviewing this and confirming that before we proceed. Goals are changing as the times change. Next is the technical memorandum. So this was submitted back in January 7th of 2026. We are still awaiting comments from the TWDB. It is not required to address these comments in a revised technical memorandum, but we will be incorporating them in the regional flood plan as we go forward. We'll be detailing how, what these comments are as we receive them and how we're addressing them in the regional flood plan going forward. Next is Task 4C, Performance of Flood Management Evaluations. So these are the studies that AECOM is performing on behalf of the RFPG for these communities. So we have 3 communities here, Monahans, Fort Hancock, and Kermit. So Monahans is right now has completed some preliminary completed the hydrologic modeling and some preliminary hydraulic modeling in order to verify and kind of recreate the storms of note that were in that area. The next step with them is meeting with the communities, kind of get their buy-in to say, like, yes, this is the impacts we're seeing. We feel like this is representative. In previous work with the City of Alpine, this is kind of where the previous study had fallen apart, where the preliminary modeling did not have the calibration required to accurately depict what was going on. And that was when we went back and said, hey, we're going to look at getting some additional gauging and some more detailed modeling to make sure that it is representative of what was seen and what was there in that community in those storms. And so we'll be providing updates on Monahans as it goes forward. The next step after we meet with the community is to start running the design storms. So this is going to be the 250, 100, 200-year storms when we look at impacts.
This looks like the 25-year storm like those.
Yeah. So there was a storm that I believe happened in 2004 or 14. I remember there's a 4 in there. I haven't been working on this one myself, but there's a roughly 25-year storm that was used as kind of like the template event.
Chairman, if I can add.
This.
Yes, we studied the latest storm event that has happened in Monahans, Fort Hancock, and also Kermit. Those are the 3 FMEs that we are currently studying. And like Travis mentioned, we are running those storm events that have recently happened in these 3 communities to make sure that we fully understand how flooding occurs on these communities, because we don't want to present something at the end, the 100-year event, that doesn't represent what is going on there anytime that they have a flood event. Okay, so that is why we have been running these storm events that has recently happened. And for that, we will be requesting Aaron to coordinate some meetings with these communities so we can present our preliminary results.
Is it mostly flat out there, Luis? Or Travis? It looks like it.
I wouldn't say that's a bad description. There are some channelized areas, there are some larger flow paths, but for the most part, it is like that kind of shallow distributed flooding that we see out there. I mean, you can see just the large patches of oil and gas fields out there. That's not the steepest terrain.
Yep, very flat.
Yeah.
It's flat. I'll say it. It's flat.
That's
North to south.
yeah.
Thank
Gonna move on to the next one.
you.
West
For
side.
Fort Hancock, we're in the process of doing dam modeling in sites, finalizing the results before moving on to the hydraulic flood modeling. So Fort Hancock has several dams upstream of them. We're using some information that we had to review the dam modeling, to look at the flows, the outflows, and how that's going to go through. And that's the step where we're in right now. We don't have any preliminary hydraulic modeling to show, but hope to soon. The city of Kermit is roughly where the Monahans modeling is. It's a little behind, actually, Monahans. I think we're still in the process of doing the setting up the hydraulic model. The hydrologic model overlaps significantly with Kermit, as or overlaps with Monahans, as Kermit is upstream of Monahans. Next is the final updates on Task 5B. Recommend a list of flood management evaluations to be performed by TWDB. And this will be the last slide. So on March 26th, we submitted the first deliverable. It was received by TWDB, and we received an RFI from them on April 17th. A RFI response was submitted again on April 24th alongside the scheduled April 24th deliverable, which was submitted and received by TWDB. We're still awaiting any comments on that, but it was confirmed that it was received. Following this, we're still working with communities to get the signed community affirmation forms. Some communities have different requirements for what they feel like is the level of detail they need to go to, county judge sign it versus commissioner court, what they feel comfortable with. And so some of these areas are taking a little longer. We're in the process of reviewing these and getting them sent out. Anyone have any questions?
It's the issue that you brought up to me about the judge.
Yeah.
But he got it's
And what Hancock over.
No, I don't think,
So that's not an issue unless it has to go forward.
yeah, I don't think we have any other
we need to
questions.
get that feedback from him. See if there's any finding.
Everybody asking that?
Vice Chairman Hull had a question regarding Judge Mbunga's inquiry regarding liability for the study. Is there any I guess feedback from management, Nick or Kevin, regarding that question?
So again, there with the Q&As, they do take a little bit longer than a regular email. Unfortunately, typically I would say give it about a week to 2 to 3 weeks. But at this moment, it's still routing through management with it being a legal question in regarding what is it, liability. It's probably going to have to go to our Office of General Counsel. So that might take a little bit longer, but we are working on getting him an answer. Usually with some of these things, I know it's a very good question and something that is very important to communities like this. So we are trying to be very considerate and very thoughtful in our response rather than just hurriedly answering and trying to get him an answer on this.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions on ACON and their updates? Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Agenda item 11, COG, next general meeting update.
Yes, I'm gonna lean on Travis regarding the need for when. And the scheduling of what needs to be submitted to TWDB that plays with this next meeting date, right? So
Yeah, so there is no requirement for next meeting as we don't have the deliverable until May of 2027. So I would say continue the next month or 2 month. We've been doing every 2 months for the past few months, and that seems to have been working out. Getting quorum. I know we had some difficulties at times. I don't have any specific requirements. Any updates or clarification that we would need could be handled and sent out as an email if we needed to make any adjustments. So I'd say let's see, it's May, so July, but I know that's also busy for some people in the summer.
Travis, maybe we can have that meeting after the chairman call with TWDB happens, so we can give an update on that call and also on the FMEs, because these 3 FMEs by that time should be done. So maybe once we have a clear date for the TWDB meeting with the chairmans, we can schedule that meeting maybe the week after or send some tentative dates.
Do you know more or less, Nick, when that would be? More or less.
Again, I really don't know. This is something that's with management at the moment, and I don't really, unfortunately, have a date or even a month to give you. I just know that the timeline that we currently have set and are shooting for is middle of summer.
How about we set it tentatively for July?
Yeah.
We will. I'm gonna be gone from the 5th through the 14th.
Right.
So I will be available 5 through 14.
Okay.
Should put that. Postmobile Club show.
before we close, I just want to share a couple things, food for thought. One, our thoughts and prayers go out to the city of Alpine regarding your critical water storage supply. Hopefully that is taken care of quickly, rather than later. Please keep us posted and informed on that. Secondly is, the Big Bend border wall, right? The detrimental effects of, flooding with that. All of our county judges within our region, did submit a letter, to the administration regarding, hopefully the thought of it and then hopefully the stop of it, regarding those detrimental effects. So I know that, we wanted to discuss that. Maybe we can individually, submit comments, as a group. Doesn't really bode well, to send to the administration regarding that, but, just be aware of what's going on in our region and how we can individually, put up some type of argument regarding that. It would really go a long way. That's all I wanted to share, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. Any other comments, questions? No? That if I could get a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Second.
on favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all. Have a good night, good evening.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
This is a good call.
Short and sweet.
Down to Billy's.